All right, guys, we got a special guest, very special guest. He's actually one of our BTR scorers today. This is another Big Buck Blueprint podcast, opening it up a little different today, but Anders Blixt from Virginia. He lives all the way in Virginia, but he hunts all over the state. But yeah, we're excited about this. Another 200, pushing 200, ain't it? Or breaking 200. He's over 200, ain't he?
Yeah, he just went over, man. Good to be on here.
I've been seeing so many deer here lately. They all run together, but yeah, it's insane. This deer's really, really good deer. But anyway, we're excited getting it. So, Anders, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so been hunting my whole life. My dad introduced me to hunting at a young age. I actually still remember my first hunt when I was 4 years old. We slipped out in the woods right here in the county where I live, and I'm still hunting here. But about 10 years ago, got the itch to start traveling a little bit, and made it out to Kansas and shot a big deer. Really enjoyed it, and wanted to keep doing it, but I couldn't travel that far, so I ended up picking up Ohio. So, happily married, got 4 daughters, and now every year all of us travel out there and put in a few weeks, stay in some Airbnbs and cabins and whatnot, stay with different friends and just try to get it done. And diehard hunter. I hunt deer, but I hunt everything else too. We've been putting some turkeys down in Virginia and ready for duck season. Just enjoy getting out there in the outdoors. So love it, man.
Heck yeah, dude. Good to have you on. We're excited. I can't wait. He's a good friend of ours. We talk all the time. He scores a lot of deer for us, and I see you got your little trophy wall right there behind him. Good gosh,
it makes a good backdrop for sure.
Makes it very good. And he's got, this is his second, I'd like to add, his second 200, so he does know what he's doing. So y'all want to listen to this one. He's got hopefully some tips and tactics for you. But so yeah, let's just roll straight into it, dude. I mean, this is a 200 and exactly
203.
203.
Yep.
Okay, so 203 inches of antler. Tell us a little bit about this spot. I mean, this farm in particular, is it how many acres, and just kind of roll into it?
Yeah, so the piece I harvested them on was 20 acres of permission property, and really nice guy who owns the property. We actually offered to lease it from him, but he said he didn't want any lease money. He really appreciated how well we took care of his property and just come by, knock on the door, and talk to him. And we bring him some deer meat and sausage and turkey Thanksgiving, whatever. And we've been hunting it for a couple of years. So 2 years ago, some buddies of mine on a farm a little bit further down got pictures of what looked like a really nice young 10-point. And, sometimes when you see him as a basket rack 10, that's a deer to watch out for. Because if he's got 10 points when he's real small, we didn't know if he was 2 or 3 years old, but somewhere in there. And we got pictures of him. So we said that's one to watch out for. So we kept watch on him, and then last year he showed up, and he was a clean 12-point in velvet with a drop tine on the right side, and we were getting them very regular in the summer, which is always a good thing for a buck. Some bucks are roaming all over the place, and some bucks are homeboys, and this guy was a homeboy, and my buddies were kind of watching him, and I picked up this 20-acre permission, got a couple pictures of him on that piece as well. So it was kind of the three of us were all agreeing, hey, we need to pass this deer. So he rubbed his velvet off last year, and when he did, that drop tine on his right side, I guess it's on his right side, it was about 3 inches, he just broke it off. I don't know if it was real porous or what, but a lot of times them drop tines are not as strong as like the regular mainframe rack.
Right.
And so he's in clean 12, probably around 150-inch deer as a 12-pointer in Ohio, which is a great buck.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of people would shoot a deer like that, and there was several times in my life where I shoot a deer like that. It's a great buck, but we all kind of recognize his potential as coming up, and we all kind of had the handshake agreement. And there's some other neighbors we talked to as well, and everybody said, "Hey, let's let this deer go." So between all of us, we passed the deer 7 times last year.
Wow, that's
which
great.
Was getting us, us really excited.
What do you think he scored last year? I mean, was he?
I think he's in the 150s last year.
Wow.
Just he didn't have any trash other than that drop time, but he broke it off. So, I mean, he could have made 160. It's always a guessing game, but we got to see him a lot. His tines were real short last year. But still just a good year. So he was in the food plots. He's on the cameras at the feeders. He's doing everything, everything he's supposed to. So we're just kind of keeping an eye on him. Got some video of him walking through by guys at the stand and stuff like that. One guy had him underneath them for 15 minutes, and it would have been the biggest deer of his life. But, we travel out of state to shoot something special, and we all kind of recognize this deer's potential as something
crazy
special.
Too.
So,
I mean, you said on like 20 acres you had this thing on?
yeah, so I had the 20 acres. My buddies had 130, and then the neighboring farm was 300. But he's kind of all mixing around in there.
Is it like where you're at? Is it like big ag? So when I'm obviously from Alabama, all I know is just thick cutover. I mean, that's all I see and know. But like, is it big ag fields up there where you're at? Is it rolling ridges and hardwood and?
Yeah, rolling ridges and hardwoods. I call it like sustainable timber harvesting because they just harvest the mature timber. So you always have big open hardwoods to hunt in.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of browns, a lot of acorns getting eaten. Some of the creek bottoms have some crops, but I mean it's far and few between. There's one crop field that's maybe 10 acres where this deer lives, and no other crop fields for over a mile.
Oh, okay. So you're pretty good. Okay. Yeah, we have that select cut down here too.
The hills up there about 400 or 500 foot tall. So not too tall you can't climb them, but you're gonna break a good sweat getting to the top.
Yeah.
But the deer tend to have smaller territories. I mean, I bet they don't go on more than like 1,000 acres. Because the hilltops and the ridges and south facing slopes are where the bedding areas are, where the deer are hanging out, and it's definitely a good area for big deer to get old, and they're not impossible to kill, but you kind of hunt them ridges and pinch points and the tops of ditches and stuff like that, and that gives you a good advantage. And
if you got people, if y'all are passing them like that too, that's another thing. Like with it down here in other states, and you have like multiple deer you can kill a season. I think Ohio you only get one, isn't it one per hunter?
Yeah, $1 per hunter. So, most people are trying to make it a good one. Yeah. Even your meat hunters are kind of holding out for a decent one because a mature buck up there is, 220, 240 pounds. And if you're a meat hunter, that goes a long ways,
Yeah, for sure, dude. I mean, you only got one deer to kill. You want to make it count. So, So that was last year. It was about a 150, 160. I mean, that's a pretty dang big jump, dude. I mean, that's like 50 inches, a little over 50 inches you put on probably.
Yeah. So if he was in the 150s, I've scored him and gotten pretty intimate with his rack. He's a 181 as a mainframe 13-pointer this year. So his mainframe would have gone up about 25 inches or so probably.
Wow.
Which is somewhat standard. For he's either going from 3 to 4 years old or 4 to 5 is what we're thinking. It's hard to know for sure. I did send the teeth off to deer aged so we can get him aged, and it's one of them rapid kits, so we should know here in a week or two how old he is.
Well, that'd be sweet to know that. So tell us a little bit about the hunt. So what happened? Tell us how the hunt unfolded. I want to hear this. This is exciting.
Yeah. So my hunting buddy Tyson, and then the other two guys that had the lease, Phil and Jeff. We're strategizing on this deer all season. Deer hunting it ain't just the 1 month of the rut. It's a 12-month thing, whether you're hanging stands, food plots, but you're always talking about what's coming to be. So, this past spring was super wet. Things greened up real early. A lot of farmers got their crops in early. So when all that stuff happens, the deer start to get eaten on that foliage in early March, which sometimes they have to wait till April or May. But when things greened up early, a lot of rain in the hills up there, there's no ag. So they're highly dependent on the forage they can get a hold of.
Right.
So I know he got to start replenishing whatever he lost over the rut and over the winter. It was a mild winter, so that got us excited. It was wet, didn't have to worry about drought conditions. So we were kind of hoping that the deer were going to make an above average growth this year, and excited to see what they were going to look like. Unfortunately, my two buddies who had that big lease, they lost that lease, and that parcel where the three of us were going to be hunting, me on the 20 acres and them two on the 130, they lost it, and that's mainly where that deer lived. So I was sad for them, but I was still in the game.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, that helps me.
Yeah, and they picked up some other great leases and have already killed some big deer, so it still worked out for them. One door closes, another door opens.
That's
but
right.
As far as this deer goes, I knew he would be a potential target for this season. We've been watching some other bucks show up, but this deer really was definitely number one on the list and had the most potential for making the biggest jump. So I was a little late to the game, just, 4 kids, wife, work, church, fill in the blank. We're getting everything going. And we got our cameras out in September. And then I had some battery issues with one of them. And that was the main ridge where he was going. So I had to go back up there opening weekend. And I got the cameras lined up on this ridge where the cell cameras are going to go. And about 3 weeks go by, and we knew he wasn't going to really show up on us. Again, he's mainly on my buddy's lease. I got the 20 acres, and he had been through there twice last year in November, but that was the only time we had pictures of him. So, but without my buddies being there, they didn't have the food plots in, the feeders and all that, and I still had food plots and feeders on the 20 acres. I knew he'd be coming down my way potentially to get a bite to eat. And October 21st, I got a picture with half a rack, just the left side of his rack, with all sorts of points sticking out.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
and was he still in velvet then?
No. He was well out of velvet.
Okay.
I knew the deer was there.
Yeah, that's right. But down here, he would have been just about in velvet. That's what I just got to tell myself. It's totally different deer. But yeah. So he was out of velvet, but you got one side.
Yep, got one side, got a drop beam, got a drop tine, got split tines.
Oh my God!
And I'm like, holy cow, that thing has done made a jump.
Yeah, he knew who it was. I mean, instantly, probably.
Instantly, yeah. There's no other deer that. I mean, deer. I see a lot of deer. I hold a lot of racks, and it seems like most deer are going to max out around that 150, 160 mark if they make it, 6, 7 years old and have a good year and all that stuff. But occasionally, when deer have mainframe 12 points and they start throwing trash, that's when the score gets a little bit higher.
Yeah.
And, I could count 9 points on just the left side. And I was getting excited.
Man, yeah. Did you tell your friends or you keep it hush?
No, for the most part.
I'd have had to have kept it hush. We kept it hush. You're too. Yeah, I'd have had to kept it hush.
Yeah, there's, we got a group of guys up there. We all kind of sharing pictures, and then I got my buddies back in Virginia. I'll share pictures with because I know
they gonna get there.
Even if they show their buddies and they show their buddies, it's not likely it's going to get out. But I got to be real selective on who I got a lot of friends in Ohio and made a lot of good connections up there, and we're all doing the same thing, chasing deer. But you get to this caliber of deer, you got to be careful.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially in the age of communication with text messages and social media and everything.
Oh, that's insane, dude. Insane.
Yeah. So 3 days goes by, and October 24th, we get pictures of them again coming down the ridge. But we got the full-on frontal, and I can see double drops. I can see split tines. Didn't know how many pictures we had of him. I don't think he's a very old deer because initially we estimated his score in the 170s.
Wow.
Yeah, and you're also thinking about last year's rack. You're thinking about what he had before. You're like, well, he was 150 before. And
there's no way. Jump. Yeah, there's no way he could come. That's what when you said that. I'm thinking, my gosh, dude, he put 50, 60 inches on. That's insane in a year.
Yeah. So then we get a couple more pictures of him, and I'm showing some of my buddies, and we're like, man, he's definitely in the 80s, for sure.
Yeah.
And then I had a couple guys, so I got a Buckmasters scoring group that we have in Messenger with all the guys I went to class with, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And we'll all kind of see each other as experts on scoring. Of course, it's always tough to look at a picture, and it's always just a guess,
Totally.
And I send it in there, and one guy's like, man, he's in the 90s. And we're all kind of looking at this thing. He's got points everywhere. Man, them inches start adding up. And I was, at the same time remembering how killable he was last year with passing him 7 times, and it's hard not to get excited.
Yeah.
So I'm like looking back at my pictures and videos. Okay, he went by the stand November 6th. He went by the stand November 9th. We're starting to put this plan together. So it was Sunday, I guess October 27th, and I got some more pictures of him. And then I got a daylight picture, and we had a cold front hitting that day.
Yeah.
And it was like 4:49 when I got a picture of him in the afternoon. And he's like 30 yards from the tree stand.
Jesus.
So I was taking my girls to wrestling practice. I sent the picture to my wife, and I was like, hey, I think I'm going to have to make a midnight drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Heck
wrestling
yeah.
practice ain't over till 7:30. And I got to pick up dinner afterwards. 4 daughters, get home.
I don't know how you do the $4. I'm just like when you say that, that makes me cringe. Like I got,
Well, God has really blessed me. They're awesome. I
yeah.
mean, they're in it as much as I am.
You better have a good, thick, big piggy bank saved up because them weddings
Yeah,
are coming up. Them
yeah.
weddings, them prom, them all them dresses and makeup.
No,
Oh my Lord, bless your heart.
yeah. I
But
told them I'm going to fix the backyard up real pretty, and that's going to be it. If
that's
they want to get married somewhere else, it's on
you
them.
walk out the back porch and here you go. Here's your
Right.
but so what is your stand? Is it on top of this? It's on top of this ridge top. Is how it's
Yep.
set up? Is a lock on? Is it 20 foot up?
Yep. Yep. We most of the time in the winter have some type of a north wind, northwest,
Yeah.
north wind, something like that. So I got it set up on the south side of the ridge. That way that dominant wind is pushing my wind off the north, and it's right in a saddle. And the saddle is kind of like the low point on the ridge between two high points. And the deer, they're trying to conserve energy and whatnot when they're up there running them hills. A lot of times they'll cross over right in them saddles.
That's right. Okay, so that's where you're at.
Yep.
You're on a good crossing on a saddle. I got you.
Yep. So I'm if northwest is my dominant wind, I'm on the southeast corner of that saddle, just so I can allow as many deer as possible to cross through there without catching my wind, waiting for a big boy to step through.
That's good. Sounds good. I just want to make sure I add that. And then, so you made the midnight drive, I'm assuming?
Yep, made the drive. I drove till, got to be safe because my family and all. And I drove till I was, my head started bobbing.
Yeah.
And stopped, got a hotel room.
That's like a 6-7 hour drive, ain't it, dude?
Yeah, about 7 hours.
Yeah.
So I drove to just past midnight, stopped and got a hotel, set my alarm for 5:30. Woke up in the morning, jumped back in the truck, made it the rest of the way there. And it wasn't my planned vacation yet, but I can work remotely. I'm an outside sales rep, and I'm a pastor at our church.
Sweet.
But it wasn't Sunday morning, so it was good.
Yeah.
Got to a coffee shop in town about 8:45 in the morning, broke the laptop out, started crunching numbers, sending emails, sat there till 11 o'clock. And I was like, all right, it's time to go get in the stand. So packed everything up. Second day of the cold front, which a lot of people like to hunt the first day of the cold front. My personal favorite is the second day of the cold front. I don't know why. I don't know if it just takes, the full amount of time for it to really set in to get the deer moving. I just tend to see more movement of mature bucks on the second day.
Okay.
So I got in the stand at 1 o'clock. It's beautiful. Leaves are falling, sun's shining. And it was actually kind of starting to warm up a little bit. It's about 68, 69 degrees, which ain't terrible, but you ain't going to see a ton of chasing. And I don't know what it's like in Alabama this year, but the oak trees are just raining acorns up here in Virginia and Ohio. And we went out to Kansas in September, and there ain't many oak trees out there, but the ones that are out there, they got them the big bur oaks. Them things are raining acorns.
Yeah. It's a good year. It's bad for us hunters though, because you can't pinpoint them, dude. It's so hard.
That's the problem. They're all over the place. Yeah. So about 5 o'clock, I see the doe come out, and she's just, nose to the ground, looked like a vacuum cleaner. Big old nanny doe. She's just working her way through the woods, going from one oak tree to the next. And then the second one popped up on the ridge, and she's doing the same thing. So I'm kind of feeling like I'm in the right spot,
Oh, yeah.
And I had a picture of this buck. We named him Thor because he had the drop time, looked like a lightning striking the ground.
Yeah,
so,
that's sweet.
I didn't name him. I can't remember if Jeff or Phil named my buddies, but that's how he got his name. So that drop time. Anyway, I had a picture of him at 5:30 that morning coming through there, and every time we get pictures of him, he's either walking down the ridge this way or walking down the ridge the other way, which should be about a 20, 25 yard shot if everything goes as planned. But of course, we always visualize this stuff in our head, how it's supposed to look, how it's going to go down, but you never know.
It never goes the way you thought. Never.
Yeah. So about 6 o'clock, I look over my right shoulder, which is out toward where the food is, and I see a doe coming. I was like, well, she's supposed to be coming from the bedding area. She ain't supposed to be coming from the food at 5, in the afternoon. And so I'm checking her, and I'm looking back to the left at the other two and just kind of watching around, looking. And then I see another deer coming behind her. And then I see another deer coming behind her. I was like, uh-oh. So I get my binoculars out, and I'm kind of twisting around the stand. And I look over, and I see that drop tine hanging down.
Oh, God.
And, man, my heart just starts bumping. you know.
Yeah, this ain't
And
no
I
nanny
could
doe.
immediately notice that we underestimated this deer. I mean, he was just super wide, drop tines hanging. I just see points. Deer ended up being 22 inches wide inside,
Dang,
24
dude.
outside.
Mm.
Just big old frame on him. So I got does on my left, and they're on my right. They're like at 80 yards and kind of sneaking in. So I real slowly fold my seat up and just kind of get stood up, trying not to make anything blow, and spot me. But luckily, they all had their heads down, just munching acorns.
Sweet.
And I get stood up, and they're still a little bit too far, and they're walking down the ridge to me. So I pull my phone out real quick, try to take a little video of it. And I'm like, all right, get your head in the game, man. This is it, this is it. So I shoot a Raven crossbow, and them things can really reach out there and touch him. And I knew
they're good.
Yep.
Good
so
stuff.
he starts working his way down. Well, again, he's supposed to come for a 20-yard broadside shot, and I'm ready. Well, he turns on the ridge, and he's facing away from me, like he's going to walk over the hill. And I was like, man, is this it? Or do I need to wait? And then, so I ranged him, and he's at 69 yards, slightly quartering away. I had to send it on out there.
Oh,
there's no reason.
I was waiting. I was like, did he send it or did he wait? I would have totally sent that.
How many stories have you heard of? I was sitting there waiting for my shot, and coyote ran up, or the wind changed directions, or this or that. There's 1,000 reasons why you don't kill them, but there's only one reason that you do, and that's because you send it.
Mm-hmm.
And 69 yards, slightly quartering away. The downside with the crossbow is you can't see your arrow in flight like you're shooting a compound. And I hunt with all three. I hunt with a recurve, compound, and crossbow. It just kind of depends on what the situation is. And so I had the crossbow. So I heard the arrow hit, and he immediately hunched up. And I'm like, man, I just gut shot him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So the doe kind of runs away a little bit. That was standing there with him, and he goes like 5 yards. I mean, just hunches up, like just back raised up in the air, and I'm looking at him. So I reload my crossbow real quick. I'm like, I got to get another shot on him. So he's kind of real slowly walking, and then he stops. And of course, he stops with like a 5-inch tree between me and him.
Yeah.
So I can't get a follow-up shot. So he's standing there 90 yards, facing away, just hunched up, just head swaying to the side a little bit. And I'm like, man, I got the binoculars on him. I'm looking for blood. I can't see nothing. I got does blowing in the background, and they're trying to figure out what happened. And I called my buddy Tyson, and I'm like, man, I got 25 minutes left of shooting light. Like, do I go shoot him again? Do I risk spooking him? Do I let him, just watch him and see what he does and then sneak out and back out? All the stuff is going through your mind at a million miles an hour. And while I'm talking to him on the phone, he lays down. I was like, well, dang. And as soon as he lays down, he puts his head down. I'm like, man, I think he just died, Let me get off here. So I hang up the phone, and I'm looking at him, checking him out. And after about 2 minutes, he picks his head up. And I don't know if he's trying to get a breath of air or what. Picks it up, puts it back down. I was like, well, he's still alive. I got to get up there. So I pack all my stuff up, climb down out the tree stand, sneak up on the hill. And as I'm coming over the hill, he can hear me. So he picks his head up. But he doesn't really look at me. And I was able to get a second shot on him, kind of quartering away. But apparently the first shot was actually dead on the money, and it cut the bottom of his heart. And I don't know why he chose to hunch up. I mean, it was right behind the shoulder on one side and went right out on the other side.
I'm surprised he didn't die, though, dude. I mean, that probably took you a solid 10 minutes to get down there.
Yep. Yeah, I don't. Well, so it cut the bottom of the heart, but it didn't get into those two chambers in the heart.
Yeah.
So I think it was like similar to a heart attack. Like his heart was bleeding and the rhythm was off and the electricity and all that stuff, but it just wasn't enough. He was on his way out. He never stood up again. He never looked at me as I was walking up. I hate to see him suffer, but I was able to get that second shot on him, and 30 seconds later, it was over.
What a blessing, dude. That's awesome. And you saw, obviously, no track job. You walk up to him. Oh, my God.
No track. Yeah, 20 yards from the shot. Got to watch it all go down, which really added to the hunt for me,
Yeah.
And had cell signal up there. Was able to call my wife, celebrate with her, call my hunting buddy Tyson, and send messages to Jeff and Phil that, hey, Thor is down and I got my hands on him. And same thing to my Buckmasters group, send them a, red light picture, got the red light on them and everything. And just excited, man, really excited.
That's a
blessing, and the crazy thing is I've only had it happen one other time for a target buck, but first sit, 5 hours into the sit, and the hunt is over. So
that is so cool, dude. That's an exciting hunt. Golly,
yeah.
second 200. That's pretty dang cool. That don't happen to a lot of folks, dude.
No, it doesn't. And the only thing I can say to anybody listening, if big bucks is your goal or 200 is your goal, and I learned this from my buddy Don Higgins, you got to hunt where they are.
Yeah.
You can't kill them if they ain't there. And at the same time, keep things in perspective. If you're hunting, I was talking to a buddy of mine here in Virginia, he killed a 160 here in Virginia. That's a giant buck in Virginia.
Totally.
And there are 200s in Virginia, but they're far and few between. You kill a 160, man, you're really doing something.
Same with down here. That's like 200. Just, man, you don't see that down here in Alabama. That's like one or two for the whole state a year. It's just hardly ever see that. Like, it's just very, very rare.
Same in Virginia. It's a hand less than 5 every year for sure.
Man, there's been some absolute hammers though in Virginia. Star City Whitetails is who I follow, and man, you know those guys?
Yeah, I know Jeff real well. I stay at Jeff's. We do an event together each year, scoring a bunch of bucks, and it's the biggest, best paid show, place to go to get all your information here in Virginia for sure.
He shares some absolute hammers, dude. Some really, really big deer. And I didn't know that kind of deer was up there in Virginia. Yeah,
there is. There's a couple pockets in Virginia. I know a lot of people don't want to see it get out, but there's some absolute hammers, and it's really catching on too. I heard a theory recently. When you get a picture on your cell camera of a 180, 190, or a buck that's bigger than any other buck you've ever killed, is probably a better way to put it. When that smaller buck walks out, you're willing to let him go because behind him could be the biggest buck of your life, and he's in the woods. It's no longer a guessing game.
Yeah, technology.
So a lot of these deer are getting older.
Yeah, totally. Well, let me see it. I want to see that thing. I know you got it right there. You already European mounting. And you're going to get a shoulder mount on that?
Yeah, I'm going to get a shoulder mount. So I started doing European mounts last year, and I just felt like it'd be better for show and tell. I always keep the rack when I go to the taxidermist. I drop my cape off. I get in line for getting them back. But I like doing the European thing. I think it looks really cool, and
if I was you, and I would have to leave it like that. That is beautiful. That is so sick, dude. How long is that drop tine on the side? How long is that drop tine?
Yeah, so it's an 8-inch drop tine on this side, 4 inches on this side. He's got 27-inch main beams. His main frame 13 pointer with 6 irregular points. He's got 3 here at the bases, inside point up here, and then the 2 drops. So,
man, that's a dang toad.
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead too, and Anders, if you don't mind, let's tell the audience, whoever's listening and is curious and might not know about the BTR scoring system. So, what is the difference? I'll just let you explain it, and I'll let I don't know what I know or anything. I do know, but what is the difference in a BTR scoring system and a regular, other Boone and Crockett?
Yep. Yeah. So the way I usually explain it is, for the most part, everybody kind of measures up the same way. It's what they do with the information once they have it on the sheet, So Buckmasters is a full credit scoring system. If the deer grew 203 inches, he gets credit for 203 inches. When they rank them in the book, they rank them by actual antler grown. So this deer grew 182 inches of antler, because the measurement of the spread is just air. It's not actual bone. So they're trying to be fair to the animal, give him credit for what he was able to put out there.
That's right.
Boone and Crockett, which is what Pope and Young uses, and a lot of these other places, it's more of a conservation organization than it is a scoring organization. And they give you credit. They get the gross score for the most part the same way. There's a few minor measuring differences in the rule book, but for the most part, if this deer's 203 inches, it'd be 203 inches Boone and Crockett gross score. Same with Pope and Young. But on the main frame, which is like these brow tines, the beams, these G2s, G3s, they're only going to give you credit for the shorter of the two tines. So if this brow tine's 3.5 and this one's 4 inches, you're only getting credit for 3.5 and 3.5. They're going to deduct that difference on the side to side, antlers and tines and beam length. If one beam's 27 and one's 27.5, you're only getting credit for 27 on both sides. That's the main difference. And a lot of people, when they share the score of their deer, whether they're talking about Boone and Crockett, Pope and Young, Buckmasters, they're going to share the gross score with you, which I tell everybody is pretty much the Buckmaster score, Right. And that's kind of why it's really taken off, for a full credit scoring system.
And we can't thank you enough, dude. I mean, you have scored so many deer for us. And again, Anders lives in Virginia, but he hunts in Kentucky, Ohio. I mean, where's all the other states you hunt? Or is it just mainly those two?
And Kentucky, Kansas. Ohio, and Kansas.
Yeah. Yep. So if there's any deer in his path, I hope I can speak for you, Anders. And if y'all are listening, I'll put his contact info in the description. That way you guys can contact him. But he is the man to contact. And then also, just while I'm there doing it, I'll go ahead and put a link to find a BTR score near you. And basically, you can search your state, your location. It has the name, the phone number of everything, of any BTR score across the entire United States. So that way you can find your own BTR score. You can get any deer you scored. You can get any deer you scored. You got your grandfather's deer he killed 184 inches 40 years ago, and you want to get it scored, we'll get it scored and put it in the BTR scoring system. So,
yeah. And I'd like to add, too, a lot of BTR scorers do tailgate scoring. There's no drying period. There's no waiting game. When you get that buck, call them up. I did one on the tailgate in Ohio for a buddy of mine. I did several when I was out in Kansas in September for early muzzleloader season. When you get that deer, go pick them up from the taxidermist, whatever you want to do. Everybody's eager to get the score on their buck and know how big they are and how they size up. You can contact them anytime. No drying time, no waiting period. No deductions, full credit, let it rip.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I totally forgot to say that. But, yeah, no drying period. That is – and what velvet, there's always – you have to have a freeze-dried or something for a Boone and Crockett, correct? Or it has to be dried out?
Boone and Crockett, you got to strip it off. You got to strip that velvet off and put the fake stuff on there. And Buckmasters has a separate velvet category, and they got categories for each weapon. So there's a lot of records out there, and you can really size up how your deer compares, because, when you get them with the bow, similar to kind of like Pope and Young, it's bow only, where Boone and Crockett is all weapons,
Right.
And Buckmasters has a pickup category, and they have sheds in there. Really, again, the idea is to give credit to the deer, not necessarily the hunter, but the deer and what he grew, and just trying to highlight that for each deer. So
good deal. Well, Anders, we greatly appreciate all you do for us for scoring deer and everything. You definitely deserve this one. Second 200. Where was your other 200 killed? I forgot to ask that.
It was about 1,100 yards away.
Wow. Wow.
Yep. Yeah. Same area. A lot of the same genetics too are kind of cool. Some of them inside points, not necessarily the drop time, but this deer over my left shoulder, he's got some inside points, real dark antlers, real heavy mass. Yeah. They got it going on in that area for sure.
Sweet, dude. Well, we greatly appreciate it, Anders. Take it easy, man. I hope you have another successful hunt. You tagged out in Kansas, you tagged out in Ohio.
Yeah.
You got Virginia.
Yeah, so it's victory laps now. Yeah. I'm gonna be hunting here on my farm in Virginia, and I've already made another trip to Ohio, taking my girls up there, and my wife. We got a couple other bucks we're chasing up there that I'd love to put a tag on. And, with a family of 6, we got 6 tags to fill. So 1 down, 5 to go. And, a family that hunts together stays together. So we're all in it. So
that's good, buddy. Well, best of luck to you. We appreciate all you do for us, man. We appreciate y'all for watching. Y'all stay tuned. We're going to have plenty more of these coming to you. So appreciate it.